Parents of bullies, when did you realize your child was a bully and how did you react? A year after I graduated high school. The meanest, most popular girl in school mother called my mom and said, "I'm sorry if my daughter ever upset or hurt your daughter." Apparently she called a bunch of girls' moms from my grade to apologize for her daughter's behavior. I remember this one kid who kept trying to pick fights with everyone had parents that was in charge of a local church. Parents got upset and tried to start a legal battle when I defended myself on the playground. I was suspended and my punishment was the new Spider-Man movie. It's pizza time. Not a parent, but I'm the eldest cousin and one of the younger lads had a bit of a bully phase when I was in my early teens. I was used to him picking on his little brother, but he started extending it to other lads, extended family and friends. He was tall for his age so he abused that. But I was bigger back then. I'm now a puny 5'9" to those 6+ monstrosities. So I put him in a headlock and asked how it felt. He started crying. He cut his sheet after that. At least around me. He still picks on his brother as an adult. But if anyone else tries he unleashes holy wrath. Hopefully I wasn't a bully. I didn't pick on people, but if people picked on me I was like, right, we fighting. When my sons told me about the zero tolerance policy at school I gave them permission to defend themselves. They protested saying there will be a 3-day suspension for any offense or defense. My response was that if you are truly defending yourself I will make sure those are the happiest 3 days of your life. As a result they were never bullied. Bullies just seem to know who won't defend themselves. I am the stepmother of a bully. It isn't significant other's firstborn son. We only get to see him once a week and it is horrible. He is always getting suspended from school for hitting kids, cussing out the teacher, and his bio mother does absolutely nothing. His bio father and I are not allowed to discipline him in any way, and he takes advantage of it. He has no remorse or empathy. He has tripped his 3-year-old brother on purpose just cause. Tells his sister to shut up. Calls her names and hits her just because. He once smacked a girl he was playing with so hard in the face she had a welt because she tagged him. And then looked us in the eyes and lied about it. I usually tell him to knock it off and ask him if he would like it if someone treated him that way. He doesn't care. In fact he gets angry if I ask him that. I am honestly terrified that he will end up in prison. I no longer allow him around my son for fear he will hurt him. I know there is something wrong with this boy but his mother is unwilling to discipline him in any way and there is nothing we can do. When I had to change my work schedule to pick my kids up from school because my 2nd grader was verbally antagonizing a 7/8th grader on the walk home. It started with her complaining she was being bullied till her older brother told on her that she was instigating. Long story short, it was her way of trying to get more attention from me because she didn't have the words to explain what she wanted. It happened years ago, a bit after I went from being a stay-at-home mom to a single working mom. I've made more effort to spend more time with them. Not a parent, but I'm the oldest cousin and I take care of my cousins. One of them I'll refer to her as M is a bully and she's 11. When I was younger she would constantly pick on me and treat me badly. And now I see her doing this to the other girls at family get-together. She would be in a group with another cousin and they would just be awful. Last time I went to a family gathering she broke down one of my cousins to break down because they were isolating her and picking on her. I had to console her while she broke down saying how M would tell her she should not come to her house anymore. And how M wishes that her and her family would just go away. She had told her mother about M actions but they can't tell my aunt because she's afraid she won't be believed. I honestly hope M grows out of being a little sheet. Kid in my primary school was a righteous itch. When her mom found out you could hear the screaming and yelling if you were living in the housing estate we lived in. I was just there minding my business when I heard what the fuck and the mom going off at the girl. Kid came in crying the next day to apologize. When I heard of my son scaring another child at the bus stop I marched him over to the child's house. Lectured him how this was the wrong thing to do along the way. Made him apologize to the other child and the parent. Told him in front of them this was unacceptable and I would not tolerate it. apologized myself for his error and assured the two it would never happen again, and then walked him home. At home my son always went on about how much cooler he was than everybody else. And I started to worry it would influence his behavior at school. So I told him to think differently. Soon after, we got a call from the school about him disparaging other kids. Needless to say, he faced some harsh discipline, no fortnight for 8 weeks, and was taught about empathy and other viewpoints. 4 weeks into his punishment, we were told at parent-teacher interviews that not only was he being nicer to other kids, but was also more positive in general. I'm very happy. My niece has been going through the mean toddler phase for about 2 years, whereby she actively seeks out younger, smaller children, chiefly her cousin, my daughter, and physically dominates them. She is possessive over anything and everything and generally makes other kids' lives hell. My SIL is absolutely useless at disciplining her, whereas her dad is too much, so she gets very mixed signals in what's right and what's wrong. My solution has been that when she is a bully towards my kids or others that I am around, I will watch her like a hawk, and once she has had her first strike there are no more chances. I isolate my kids from her and have them play nicely and put her on a sort of forced playtime timeout where she isn't allowed to play with us, and then tell her it is because she was mean to another child. She is intelligent enough for this to sink in, but generally only gives us an hour of relative peace before she starts again and the whole process starts again. I was a bully when I was little, but I was always really good at masking that. I was a really manipulative little kid. I'm glad I'm not as much of a hunt anymore, and I'm not a little sociopath anymore. Victim of one when I was young and heard what the parent did. I left school one day and the bully and his friends caught up with me, beat me up and threw me in the mud, then ran off with my cap. I cried on my way home. But before I got home, the father of one of the bullies caught up with me, gripping me strongly and held me hard against a stone wall, saying that I had stolen the bully's cap. The father was very angry and wouldn't relent, while I just cried more. He went through my bag and didn't find anything, then angrily shouted at me for throwing it away. It was clear that he wanted to drag me along to search for it, but I just gave up and went limp. Didn't move at all, and he just left me there by the road to cry. Later that day, my father went to talk to the bully's father. I don't know what specifics they talked about, but my father said that the bully's father just told the bully not to do it again. And that was it. Some parents can be assholes, even mine. But not in this situation. This is one of my biggest fears as a parent. Because for a long time my son was getting in trouble for hitting other kids randomly. This was in kindergarten. He's going into 2nd grade now. Legit randomly. We had proof and everything. Like once he was putting his snow boots on and a kid was walking by. And my son, straight face and everything, stood up and just cold clocked this poor kid before calmly sitting back down and finishing getting his boots on. I started telling him if he was going to treat others that way, that's how he should be treated. Because we follow the golden rule at Trademark sign in our house. He didn't like that idea, and his behavior started to improve. For clarity, we didn't actually do anything to him. Just told him we would if he kept it up. And that he wouldn't have any friends because nobody wants to be friends with a bully. He still acts out sometimes, but it's gotten a lot better with talking about why something he did was wrong and how it makes others feel. And asking him how he would feel if someone did those things to him. Not a parent, but I was always impressed at how efficiently mine reacted the one time I asked for their help. Note that I'm from France and have been to mostly good schools, so the bullying was light to none compared to some other countries. We don't even have a word for it in French. Usually I was able to stand for myself if necessary. But that one time a group of girls started throwing gonads at my face in sports class. And there wasn't much I could say to make it stop. Told my parents, who turns out don't joke with this shit at all. They immediately called the principal, who talked to the sports teacher. She knew they were all practicing a sport at a pretty high level. So she told their coach, who had a lot more weight in their life than any of their teachers or parents. They came back to me awkwardly like, hey, you didn't have to go that far. That wasn't cool and all. Well, you did something dumb, now you live with it. No one bothered me again after that. Plus these girls, although very cocky when together, were not bad people if you got to know them. Edit. Spelling. The bully in my school was genuinely racist and turned out his dad was worse. His dad was shouting racist slurs at me for no reason as I was going home. I was being bullied and my mom and dad said if they're doing something to you and you tell them stop more than 3 times beat their $$, so that's what I did. Not a parent, but I was the one to tell a parent that her son is a bully. I work at a summer camp and she pulled me aside at pickup one day to tell me that her poor son was getting bullied. I asked if her son had named any names and he names the sweetest little kid who was approximately half his size. I kept an eye out for it the next week or so and witnessed the bully get picked on by the kid accusing him of bullying. Eventually the bully would push him back or call him a name, and frankly I couldn't blame him. I explained to the mother that her son was really only the victim of retaliation. She didn't seem to care. Meanwhile he was throwing markers and climbing a stair railing. In preschool my daughter began to show signs of being a mean girl. She would talk about refusing to play with someone because she didn't like their clothes and convince her friends not to play with other kids. I watched the edited 40v version of Mean Girls with her and we stopped and talked about how the kids treated each other and how they might be feeling. She started being nicer all around. What really spoke to her was being the victim of a mean girl situation in first grade. Now in middle school she is quick to identify mean girls and bullies. Doesn't let herself become their victims and befriends kids who are victims and helps them connect with other nice kids. Not me. But when I was growing up we had a neighbor kid who was like 6 years older than me. Always teasing and making fun of me. Until one day, when I was already in a shitty mood, I was like 6. It happened a lot. I put on my gloves, it was cold outside. Don't judge me, then jumped the fence and punched him square in the mouth. Knocked one of his teeth out. And gave him a busted lip. Went bawling inside. His mum came over an hour or so later and was basically like, "Yeah, I always knew he was a little shit. He deserved it." Then left. He never spoke to me again. Though, as far as I know he's married now with his own kids. Edit. I'd have never guessed that my highest rated comment would be about how I punched some kid in the mouth and sent him home to his mum. For your information, a lot of bullies are bullied by their parents or their parents are bullies. Neither of which would admit it. My sil is a bully. Through and through. And her sons are both bullies. Whenever someone contacts them about it she throws a fit about how of course the son was mean to that kid. The kid's a weirdo and deserves it. She's of course not a bully and the disconnect is real. It's like telling her elephants are flying. She looks at you like you're insane and literally cannot believe you would even suggest that. You could list facts and figures to her. She's not going to get it. So you probably won't get a lot of parents in this thread who are willing to admit it because they probably are in denial. I was a child who was a bully in elementary school. My dad came to pick me up from school early and saw me being terrible to a kid. He went old fashioned and started bullying me and told me this is how it feels. It really taught me the empathy and I feel like I turned my sheet around. My dad told me to find the biggest kid in school and beat him up. That way none of the other kids would ever bully me. Turns out I was the biggest kid in school and several other fathers had given their sons the same advice, so I got my ass kicked multiple times. Bill Burr.